This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman and Riley Smith. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Friday the 13th here in May of 2022, but we're so glad you can join us today. In today's show, we're continuing our discussions from yesterday. Dustin chats with Joe Gill about the National Association of Farm Broadcasting and what they do, and I go over yesterday's CONAB report with Allendale commodity broker Greg McBride. We'll have our ag weather outlook as well, but first, let's go ahead and take a look at the ag market recap.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Well, the markets are getting to a close here today, and we'll go ahead and go over those numbers. And for that, we go to Bill Biedermann of agmarket.net. Bill, how are things going today?
Oh, really good, actually. The market, the corn market's pulling back a little bit after yesterday's big activity. And, you can expect that. I mean, there's going to be a lot of planters running over the next few days, and there's going to be a lot of corn planted. When you can knock out, in a lot of cases, 15% or more in a day, traders are coming in thinking that there's going to be some stuff growing in those rows pretty soon. So a little weakness in the corn. We had big corn sales, though, in exports this week, so we suspect there will be good support under the market. And when you look at USDA's numbers, certainly there's going to be some acreage adjustments, and that'll provide some longer-term support. Soybeans quite a bit higher, led by July. That's kind of a head-scratcher. Of course, there's no delivery incentive to be delivering beans in July, so maybe the futures have got to go higher to get that basis more in line. The basis has been very strong down along the river system. But soybeans could run out of steam here next week. We're pushing $15, and we might see a little bit of selling against that with prospects for a little bit more acres. Back to the July beans, though, there were rumors that China was trying to get some bids from the U.S., which is kind of odd because Brazil is much more competitive. Higher markets in the wheat, don't need to explain that. We're in a big bull market, trying to figure out the supply problems and how we'll end up meeting the demand.
Right, and yesterday's WASDE was a pretty influential report. Have the markets fully reacted to that yet, or have they kind of gone through and we already see it factored in?
No, I don't think it's fully reacted. I think the market, it's going to take probably the 8 months that the USDA has to revise numbers in order to really get a full understanding. In the wheat, they used a 46.6 bushel national yield. Last year, it was 44.3. When you're looking across the country and you're seeing Oklahoma State estimating this Oklahoma crop at 50% of last year, it's pretty hard to believe we'll have a national yield that's 2.3 bushels above last year. So when you start bringing that number down, it just has a ripple effect all the way down to the carryover. So carryover is going to be a lot tighter than what the numbers actually say right now. And then when you look at the world situation, I mean, USDA is already saying that we're going to have to cut 12 million tons out of world demand, which is going to be difficult. And if you look at the Russian and the Ukraine situation, you look at what they're going to be exporting. I mean, it's really going to be a challenge, I believe, to try to shift that demand around and get it to find a home.
Right, and we did hear recently that Ukraine is getting a start on planting, and they're at least getting some crop in the ground. But obviously, with the situation with Russia, we don't know exactly if they'll be able to even export that.
Well, I believe that Russia probably will, and they might even be stealing some grain, but it's all going to be job lots being shipped out in trains. Trains are going to be difficult because of the infrastructure damage. The vessels being loaded out, again, they're job lots and they're under the Russian flag, so it's not going to amount to a whole lot. there's definitely going to be some big issues. I mean, right now they're saying that, exports will drop down to like 33 million tons or something like that. So it's going to be a problem. We'll just have to see, Ukraine will only get out 10 million tons. I mean, that's half of what they did last year. And that's just an if. We've got some pretty big contacts in Ukraine. I actually have a meeting with one next week who is an exporter from Ukraine. So it'd be interesting to see what he has to say.
All right. And then what did we see on the other side of the marketplace in the livestock complex?
Yeah. So the livestock, obviously the high grain prices has really caused some havoc with those markets, especially with the amount of cows that are being sold as pairs and calves at auction. Last week, we saw a record amount of cows and pairs being sold out in Kansas for the week, certainly putting pressure on things. Feeder cattle market all the way down near these contract lows. Fat cattle, though, caught a bid in the cash market, so we're kind of thinking that maybe we're seeing the amount of product and even lower, barbecue type meat, a lot of hamburger meat getting eaten up here. So hopefully we'll see that clean up and we'll catch some more bids, but we believe that the chart support is right here on these futures, so we'll have to see if that inspires the market to move higher. Over in the hog market, we had just a terrible product market. We've had a terrible hog market. We've had just too many hogs and too much product, too much tonnage. A lot of people, though, too, and the attitude is that with the stock market selling off, it's putting pressure on commodities as a whole. I mean, you're calling your stockbroker, you're saying, hey, I'm getting my statements, I'm down 25%. That's a quarter of my pension that I'm losing. What's going on? And they say, hang in there. It's a long-term thing. And then the customer says, well, what other positions do we have? And they say, well, you're in a little aggressive portfolio, so we've got some in the commodities market. And they just freak out and say, well, just get me out. And I don't want that kind of risk. And so we're seeing some of that selling also, which for the industry, for us who know what's going on with food supplies and logistic problems, that sell-off is really an opportunity. But to get some calls bought, things like that, going into the summer when we hit peak risk on our next production cycle.
All right, Bill. Well, lots of great information today. For those of our producers who would like to get in contact and learn more, how can they get a hold of you at agmarket.net?
You bet. Agmarket.net, 844-4-AGMARKET. Just give us a call. We'll be happy to talk to you.
All right. Well, it was great talking today, and we hope to get in touch with you again soon.
Okay. Thank you.
That again was Bill Biedermann of agmarket.net. We'll go ahead and take a look at those closing market prices. That's courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. At the close, July corn is down 10 1/4 at 7.81 1/4. December corn down 4 1/4 at 7.48 3/4. July soybeans up 32 3/4 at 16.46 1/2. November soybeans up 17 3/4 at 14.98 1/4. Soybean meal up 13.30 at 4.0930. Soybean oil up $1.27 at 83.79. Chicago wheat down 1 1/4 at 11.77 1/2. Minneapolis spring wheat up 9 even at 13.25 even. Kansas City hard red wheat up 12 even at 12.82 even. And July oats are down 6 3/4 at 6.17 3/4. On the Merc, live cattle down 42 cents at 132.35. Feeder cattle up $1 at 157.87. May lean hogs down 10 cents at 100 even. Pork cutout up $2.60 at 106.40, and Class 3 milk down 34 cents at 23.76. And that was a look at the ag market recap. We'll go ahead and take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, Dustin will finish his conversation with Minnesota farm broadcaster Joe Gill. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. The National Association of Farm Broadcasting, or NAFB, offers a lot of services for farm broadcasters. For me, the first one that comes to mind is their Newswire, which allows all of the farm broadcasters to easily share content with each other. Joe Gill is the president-elect for the NAFB, so he and Dustin talked about the organization and how it serves farm broadcasters.
Now, you were also out in Washington last week for the NAFB's, we call it Washington Watch. You get to talk to lawmakers. You got to talk with Ag Secretary Vilsack as well. What kind of things did you hear from those lawmakers? I mean, obviously they keep saying they're sensitive to the issues that farmers are facing, but what kind of gist did you get from all of them?
Yeah, that's the gist was where it seemed like a lot of folks were walking that line where they wanted to tell you something but didn't tell you anything. My takeaway, they're aware of it. It's just a matter of what to do. And of course, as you know, DC, nothing gets done quick. So that's my main takeaway. They're very aware, but we heard from EPA, Michael Regan, too, talking about waters of the U.S., and he addressed the issues and knowing that farmers and ranchers, they want clarity. Okay, it's understood. Now, where does it go? On Capitol Hill, some talks regarding Farm Bill. They understand inputs are high, but solutions were kind of short to come by, to be honest with you. But as far as being aware to those issues, yeah, they are.
You know, and it's interesting. We've talked many years, Joe, about the fact that there seems to be that disconnect. We know that only a small handful of the lawmakers that are in DC come from rural districts, and so we've said that the understanding of the problems has always been an issue for agriculture. But the thing is, even when they understand the problems, understanding what a good solution is still just equally as difficult for them.
I agree too that hands-on and kind of firsthand experience, it's lacking. They really don't understand what goes on. I'm sure many of them haven't been into a sales barn or milked a cow or been in a tractor for a long time, which is understandable, but that just puts more pressure on us as broadcasters to relay that message and share messages from our farmers and ranchers as well.
So maybe you need to get the Minnesota delegation some shovels and come help out at the Joe Gill cattle ranch there and have them get an understanding of what everybody's going through.
You know, it's weird because that experience is free. The shovel is free, and you're welcome anytime. So open arms, you can come help out and do a little shoveling, and it's a great experience for everybody.
So, Joe, as president-elect of the National Association of Farm Broadcasting, not everybody understands the association and what it does. You want to kind of give our audience a kind of a taste of what goes on there?
Yeah, it's a unique organization, Dustin. Starting back in 1944, we have just about 800 members total, which does include farm broadcasters, whether it's radio, whether it's TV, whether it's print media. And then we have our allied council, other ag industries, when it comes to maybe the marketing side, also from some of the management side as well. They're all included. So that's what the makeup of our membership is. And it holds a lot of tradition. And also as an organization, we kind of get the responsibility of covering agriculture, obviously. And I think what's unique, our listeners, your listeners, Dustin, they hold us to maybe a bit of a higher standard where on the news we cover, the market information we make available, that we have a high number of respect with our listeners and our viewers on what we cover. So as an organization, we look to encourage our members to continue what they're doing and also to promote what we're doing and also grow it in a way. And of course, as a station or a network too, how we can work on marketing relationships and make it work for everybody.
Well, and the interesting thing is how much the digital has taken over and how many radio stations realize that they need to embrace that. I mean, you and I are both radio people, but we've had to embrace it. I mean, look what we're doing right now. You also do things as well with KASM. I mean, tell people about how that's really made radio people kind of up their game and what they're doing.
I agree too. You're more of a multimedia broadcaster now, and I admit I'm one of those guys. I like routine. I don't like change. I'm kind of that guy who sits on a porch saying, "Stay off my lawn and leave me alone." But you really can't sit on the sidelines and do that. Whether it's Facebook or Twitter or what you guys do in this show too. It's just another pie on the windowsill. I like to say, if you're you're selling pies at home. You put one out there, you put another one here, another one there, and you're going to bring in different audiences. And after a while, they're going to say, boy, that Dustin Hoffman, he makes good pie, So it's kind of that analogy I like to use. And nowadays, you really have to have your fingers into everything and try and get that same message you're doing on the radio, maybe on a more traditional level, and maybe expand it a little bit, and you can reach even a further audience.
And what's interesting is the fact that, radio people doing video, some people doing all digital, that's the only way they're going. What's amazing is you also have the TV people who have been long established, but in the NAFB, it's funny is that there are so many groups that technically we compete with each other, even in our own states, even in our own regions, but yet there's such a camaraderie there that they'll help each other out, whether it's, hey, I'm at this event that you can't make, and you're at one that I can't make, let's switch some audio around, or we even have the news service repository. I mean, for the most part, it's a group of people who compete for those advertising dollars, they compete for the news, but yet at the same token, they'll give you the shirt off your back to help make sure that you're not going under yourself.
And I think too, you find it as well, where I've had an idea or incorporated something in my morning show or midday show, and they're like, wow, that was a great idea. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I borrowed that from Dustin Hoffman or Von Kettleson or Tom Stever or whoever it may be. And that's the great thing. I think, like you said, there's a competition there, but it's also a mindset of we're on the same team. We're all trying to accomplish the same goal out there and do it as best as we can. And it's great to be involved in that. It's very much a family atmosphere. And yes, we have our own parts of the country, our own audience, our own advertisers, but still, like you said, that bottom line, we're on the same team and on the same family as well.
Now, I'm going to go back to something you mentioned about pies on the windowsill. Joe, you're pretty known in the NAFB circles for finding out what everybody's eating for breakfast and making sure we're eating that balanced breakfast. Tell us about where you got that idea of finding out what's fueling our broadcasters around the country.
I admit, another idea I stole. It was not mine. Dwayne Murley one day out of Fort Dodge, Iowa, he posted, it was, what is your fuel? And I thought that was so funny. So I responded back, well, this is my fuel. And then I think maybe a week later, I said, oh, what's your fuel, Dwayne? And he responded, others responded. So I can't take any credit for that. I was just kind of pushing the horse down the path there, but yeah, it's a conversation starter. Usually mine is pretty simple. It's coffee and donuts or chocolate milk and donuts. And then you toss in that homemade toasted jam filled, I don't know what kind of sandwich you make. It's a little goofy, but it looks good.
Yeah, that would be the strawberry jam, Kraft American singles, and garlic sausage from up in the locker near my home in Minnesota there up in Nicollet. So yeah, definitely, you find some strange things that people will eat, and some of it you're like, hey, that looks pretty good, and some of it I wouldn't eat that for $50.
Just like the sandwich you just mentioned. I don't think you can persuade me into that one.
All right. Well, Joe, we thank you so much for visiting with us today and being a part of the show and talking to us. And hopefully we'll be, next time we talk, we'll have some better news about what's going up there in Minnesota. And of course, we're going to see you at World Pork Expo. So we'll probably be talking sooner than we think, but yeah, definitely want to make sure that you guys are having a safe planting season up there and hope things get off the ground for you guys as well.
Well, that sounds great. I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks, and a great job yourself and Riley are doing with this program, and just adds to what you guys are doing. I know you guys aren't sleeping in the morning or getting an early sleep at night either. You guys do a great job covering Iowa and much of this upper Midwest.
All right. Well, Joe, thanks so much. And again, that was Joe Gill of Chasm Radio here on Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network's Ag Matters PM.
Thanks, Dustin. Now let's go ahead and check out that ag weather outlook. Well, the weather has cooled off a bit and just in time for the weekend too. Hopefully it will stay nice enough for farmers to get most, if not all, of their crops planted. Let's take a look at what the National Weather Service has in store for the next 24 hours. As you can see here from the National Weather Service, temperatures will become much more tolerable this weekend. Today, rain pushes away and the sun returns with cooler temps ranging from 79 to 89. Tonight, clear skies are likely across much of the state with some lingering showers and clouds in the east. Lows overnight should range from 51 to 63. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies across the state. Highs will range from 79 to 85. Looking at the affiliate weather map right now, as you can see for tomorrow, Cherokee will be sunny with a high of 79. Shenandoah also looking to be sunny with a high around 85. Des Moines sunny as well and a high of 85. Albia sunny and 84. Waterloo once again sunny and 84. And Clinton will be partly cloudy with a high of 83. For more detailed forecasts in your part of the state, check in with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook. When we come back, I talk about yesterday's CONAB report with Allendale commodity broker Greg McBride in a continuation of our discussion from yesterday. This is Ag Matters PM. As we approach planting season, make sure you stay safe and share the road with your local farmers. Slow-moving tractors with large planters occupy a lot of space on the road, so stay patient and follow at a distance of around 50 feet. You should never, ever try to pass them at a bridge, intersection, hill, or curve. It's far better than putting yourself or someone else at risk. So please, stay safe and remember to tip your hat to your local farmer this planting season. This message was brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Welcome back to AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Yesterday, the markets were primarily focused on the May WASDE report, and for good reason. However, there was another report that came out yesterday that flew a bit under the radar, Brazil's monthly CONAB report. Allendale commodity broker Greg McBride and I discussed what was on the report and what effect it will have on the markets. All right, and let's talk CONAB as well. Obviously, not as big of a headline today. The big thing we were concerned about was this May WASDE, with it being the first report of the new crop. But what did we see in CONAB numbers?
We saw CONAB actually do a slight reversal of what they've been doing for the last few months. They actually increased their estimations for corn and soybeans, and I think that's kind of the way that we thought we were going to see. Some of the worst had been taken out. The USDA on their side of things didn't really make any changes for Brazil, so there wasn't any major changes there, but CONAB coming back closer to where the USDA was is definitely something that I think we all kind of saw coming. It's not bullish or bearish. You generally look at increases to production as bearish, but we already know that they were well off of what they had thought they were going to be just, say, 3 months ago.
Right, and that's kind of the story with South America in general right now. We know that their crops, haven't been the best. They haven't had the best production cycles. The weather's just not been very cooperative. Are we going to see a huge effect on the markets from this CONAB report, or have we kind of already seen that factored in just based on how they've been performing all year?
Well, I think we've already seen that factored in. We're not really trading, specifically fundamentals like production. I mean, that obviously played into it earlier in the year, but right now we're trading a lot of outside factors. I mean, you look at the strength in the crude oil, even though it's kind of gone sideways to be more range bound in the last month or two. It's still at elevated levels, and that's helping to hold us in place even when we see days where we sell off. A strong dollar is not necessarily good for commodities in general, but we've got such great inflation right now, and I don't say great as a good thing. We have such high inflation right now that is a reason to be a little bit concerned about this dollar being up there, but that's also a good reason for prices to be as elevated as they are. So we're not necessarily paying attention specifically to every USDA report the way it's coming out. It's more trading macro markets right now. And if we start to slip into a recession, say going into the third quarter, when we get the second quarter GDP numbers, if that goes into a recession, that is a concern that we could start to see these prices dip off as the economy takes a hit to that.
Right, and those macroeconomic factors have had a huge impact on the marketplace recently. I mean, obviously, they've been the primary focus and driving force there. Are there any other new factors that have come out, maybe other countries kind of backing off on exports that we've seen recently that could have an effect on the marketplace here soon?
Yeah, absolutely. China has backed off on their purchasing of corn and soybeans, and that doesn't just impact us. That impacts, say, Brazil and Argentina as well. But the thing that we have to continue to watch is what happens, not necessarily with their buying It's what would happen if, say, China invades Taiwan. That has been a conversation piece for a long time. That's been a conversation piece, especially since the Russians have invaded Ukraine. And that's something that could throw things off, because what that does is maybe we start to sanction China like we did with Russia, where all of a sudden we can't get, no one wants to buy their stuff, or maybe we're not going to ship soybeans or corn or whatever it is to them. So that can throw off the entire economy at that point, not just the U.S. economy, but the global economy.
That again was Allendale commodity broker Greg McBride. We'll wrap up our discussion next week. And that is it for today's episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and newly added TikTok. You can also find our video content and previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget our free Twice Daily Market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.